The Eagles just leaked some huge news during their preseason finale versus the Jets, and it's kind of what we've all been waiting for, as not only do we seemingly finally have the answers as to who's going to start at several key positions, including safety and linebacker, but we also have an extremely positive update on one of the Birds' biggest stars. Meanwhile, several unexpected Eagles stood out in the preseason win over the Jets, while John Metchie flashed in his Eagles debut, and the battle for the starting cornerback job might not be over just yet. So let's talk about that and everything else from the Birds' preseason finale starting right now. Alright, so the Eagles have a couple big weeks ahead, as the home stretch in the lead up to the start of the regular season is finally here. As with the preseason coming to a close, all focus will now shift to roster cutdown day, which is on Tuesday, and then there's the formation of the practice squad directly after that, and then from there, all eyes are on the Dallas Cowboys and the NFL season opener on September 4th. And of course, that night will also be when the Eagles unveil the Super Bowl banner, so obviously that's going to be electric and a crazy atmosphere at the Link, and it's just going to be so exciting to have real Eagles football back. I mean, I honestly just could not be more excited for it. And you guys know I'm going to be covering the entire season here on this channel, so make sure you guys subscribe and you turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. But obviously, before we can really dive into the regular season, we gotta first talk about the Birds' final preseason game. As of course, Philly took on the Jets on Friday night, and despite the fact that none of the starters played and it was a very ugly game in a lot of ways, plenty of very noteworthy storylines came out of it. I mean, for starters, it was the Philadelphia Eagles debut of John Metchie, who of course just got here in a trade last Sunday, but despite the fact that he's new and he still has a lot of catching up to do in order to just learn this offense and be caught up with everybody else, they wasted no time getting him involved. As on the very first offensive play of the game, the rookie quarterback Kyle McCord dropped back and fired a pass to Metchie on the sideline for 14 yards and a first down. And look, it wasn't really anything too special, but it was still exciting to see Metchie get involved that early and make a positive play for the Eagles offense. Now later, he did have a drop, which was pretty bad, and aside from those two plays, he was pretty much invisible for the rest of the time that he was out there. So overall, it's not like he was super impressive or anything like that, but again, it was just nice to see him get involved briefly and give us a little glimpse of what could be coming. Because remember, Metchie does have an exciting skill set, and the more comfortable he gets, the better he will be.
Taking it day by day. Of course, learning a new offense, just pretty much taking it day by day.
To get the first target of the game, how did that feel?
It felt good. Start the game off the right way, start fast. It's a great way to start with a new offense, you know.
How far do you feel like you've come, and how far do you still have to go to learn this playbook?
I think it's just repetition, you know. I've been here for, 48 hours? It's just repetition.
I think Metchie's presence on this team as a depth piece at wide receiver is actually very important, especially now because before the Birds' preseason finale on Friday, they took a pretty big hit to their wide receiver depth, as after being carted off the field during Tuesday's practice with what was later called a knee/ankle injury, it was revealed on Thursday that the second-year man Johnny Wilson would be having season-ending surgery to repair said injuries. And obviously, this news sucks for multiple reasons. I mean, one, Wilson was just having a really good training camp in preseason, and it looked like he was ready to possibly take a step forward in whatever role he was given in year two. So the fact that he's not going to have that opportunity definitely sucks. And then for the Eagles offense and wide receiver room as a whole, Johnny Wilson just brought something that really nobody else has, as at 6'6" and 227 pounds, Wilson obviously has very unique size for a wide receiver, and hence a very unique skill set. And last year, he was a beast as a run blocker on the outside for Philly's run-first offense, and also, with that elite size, he can be used as a red zone threat at times as well. So the fact that he's out for the entire season definitely does hurt the Eagles offense to some degree. Now that said, I think they'll ultimately be fine. I mean, obviously, like I said, they got John Metchie now. They also got a few other solid guys that add depth at receiver, but still, this news just sucks. So prayers go out to Johnny Wilson and definitely hoping for a speedy recovery. However, on the other side of that, the Eagles also did get some extremely positive injury news before the Jets game as well, or rather leaked a very positive update. As before the game got started, star receiver A.J. Brown was seen out on the field going probably near full speed running routes and catching passes. And of course, this is significant because AJ has been dealing with a hamstring injury that has kept him out for most of training camp, so the fact that he's running seemingly pretty close to full speed here is definitely very exciting and a good sign for the health of that hamstring. And the reporter who posted this video, that being John Clark, gave us even more promising news, as he said, quote, "I would say A.J. Brown and his hamstring look pretty good catching passes from Jalen Hurts pregame here at MetLife Stadium. It's my understanding that the Eagles have been cautious with some of their players, trying to make sure they are ready to start practicing this coming week when they begin preparations for the season opener." So based on that, it sounds like AJ could be back at practice extremely soon, maybe even as soon as Monday, which is tomorrow as I'm recording this video. So, we'll see what happens, but this is definitely a very, very positive update on AJ Brown's injury. Now, as for the rest of the wide receivers trying to make this Eagles roster, there was one clear standout from the preseason finale against the Jets, and it surprisingly wasn't training camp's best story in the undrafted wideout Darius Cooper, and it was instead the OTA standout Terrace Marshall Jr., as he led the team in receiving with 5 catches for 51 yards. Now, did he do anything that was super impressive? No, not really, but he did produce and make plays when his number was called. Now, is that enough for Marshall to actually make this roster? I would say probably not. I mean, it may be just too little too late, but I do think there's a chance that he ends up on the practice squad, so we'll see what happens. And we'll also have to see what happens with all these other fringe roster guys that may or may not make it. And let's not forget just how important that practice squad is, because as we've seen as recently as last year, those guys could end up playing a key role for the team too, depending on what happens. And during Friday's preseason finale, multiple of the guys that are vying for those spots definitely made their case. I mean, let's start off with veteran defensive back Parry Nickerson, as the backup slot cornerback has had a very good preseason and summer so far, but this game against the Jets was his best performance yet, as he made multiple good plays, with the best one being an acrobatic diving interception on Jets quarterback Brady Cook. And this may have been one of the best plays of the entire game. I mean, it was super impressive. So again, not saying that Nickerson is going to make the roster. I think practice squad is much more realistic for a vet like him, but he certainly made a very compelling case on Friday. And Nick Sirianni had some very positive things to say about him after the game as well.
Yeah, he's a guy that guys love being around, good teammate, played a lot of football, and just always appreciative of him being on this football team, just with everything he brings.
Now, in addition to Nickerson, other unexpected Eagles also made their case for the roster and practice squad as well during Friday's preseason game. I mean, on offense, for starters, you have undrafted rookie running back Montrell Johnson Jr., who sure didn't have a crazy good performance with just 15 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown, but he definitely did flash some ability, especially with that 15-yard cutback touchdown run that he had on third down. So, definitely not a guy that I think has a real shot at the active roster, but definitely a candidate for the practice squad. And I also feel a similar way about safety Lewis Cine, who of course was a former first-round pick of the Vikings back in 2022, and in this game, he actually had one of the very best plays, as he had a diving interception of Jets quarterback Adrian Martinez. So it was nice to see the Philly dog make a play there, and again, I think he could be a candidate for the practice squad, although he did get injured in this game and wasn't able to put any weight on his left foot after it happened, so that could definitely hurt his chances. But then, on top of that, you also have linebacker Dallas Gant, who came in clutch at the end of the game when he absolutely stood up Jets running back Donovan Edwards on the goal line on a 2-point attempt. I mean, just look at how strong this tackle is by Gant here, so that was definitely impressive. Again, I'd say he could be a possible name to watch for the practice squad. Then you also got the veteran edge rusher Patrick Johnson, who, of course, has spent every summer of his career in Philly dating back to 2021, and in this game, he had multiple pressures, and he also had a sack at one point, which was definitely awesome to see. And, he's somebody who I definitely think has a very solid chance of actually making the roster. But that said, he's not even the edge rusher who excited me the most in this game, as that goes to the rookie Antoine Pow-Ryland. And if you guys have been watching my videos since the draft and throughout the offseason, then you know that I absolutely loved it when the Eagles selected APR with their last pick in the 6th round, and I thought there was a chance that they got an absolute steal, as we're talking about a guy who had 16 sacks last year at Virginia Tech and over 25 sacks in the past 2 seasons. So the guy clearly knows how to rush the passer, at least at the college level, and despite falling for having short arms and being undersized, he is also extremely athletic. Now, this offseason, APR has been rather quiet, and we really haven't heard his name much throughout training camp, but in this game, he finally made his presence felt, as he had multiple good rushes and instances where he got pressure on the quarterback, And in the third quarter, he made an absolutely awesome play, getting around the edge and strip sacking Jets quarterback Adrian Martinez, and Mac McWilliams ended up recovering, which, by the way, shout out to him for the great heads-up play. He had a good game as well. But yeah, for APR, it was just awesome to finally see his pass rushing ability on display, because I've known it's been there all along.
A guy like Antoine Pow-Ryland, for him to play the way he did tonight, I mean, how big is that for a guy like that?
Yeah, I think you saw that on his college tape. I mean, he had a lot of production and pressuring the quarterback, and we were able to see that tonight. Big time, had some good pressures, had that good strip. We did a good job of scooping that ball up because it looked like an incomplete pass, so good, smart situational football by our guys, and that's what they practice in practice, where they scoop all the loose balls. So Antoine, great rush, and good job by Max scooping that up.
Hopefully APR can at least make the Eagles practice squad this year and, then develop for a little bit and hopefully eventually maybe become a player for this Birds defense down the road. But now, moving on, perhaps the biggest news for the Eagles came right before the game even started, as a few key players that have been fighting for starting jobs all summer didn't even suit up for this one, while their competitors in those battles did. Those guys being safety Sidney Brown, who after Andrew Makuba's hamstring injury a few days ago, seems to be currently locked in as the starting safety to begin the season, so obviously that is huge news there. Then you have linebacker Jihaad Campbell, who didn't suit up while Jeremiah Trotter Jr. did play in this game. So, like I said a few days ago, it definitely seems like Campbell is now locked in as the starter at linebacker next to Zach Bond to begin the year, which isn't super surprising. Now, I will say it's kind of hard not to feel a little bad for Jeremiah Trotter Jr., as he had a really good summer with how he performed in training camp and the preseason, and it's not like he did anything to lose that starting job. It's just that Campbell has the higher ceiling, and he was the first-round pick this year. So definitely an unfortunate break for Trotter, who I do think is a good linebacker. And then the last notable player who didn't suit up was cornerback Adoree Jackson, which that's likely a sign that, as of now, he has won the battle, or at least is leading the battle, of who will start at corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell. But personally, I don't think, or at least I'm hoping, that this battle isn't over quite yet. As with a little under 2 weeks left until the start of the season, I do think there's one other candidate that's still in the running, that being the new addition in Jakorian Bennett. And during this game against the Jets, I feel like Bennett made steps in the right direction, as even though he did let up quite a few catches, it seemed like every single time Bennett was right there, pretty much on top of the guy in coverage, and they just managed to make a really tough catch on him. And he also didn't really let up any big plays on the night, and on the contrary, he did make several good plays. So as much as some people may look at the amount of catches that Bennett gave up and say that he didn't play well, I'm choosing to just trust what I saw with my eyes, being that Bennett was really, really sticky in coverage all night long and was just unfortunate on a couple plays. And again, I really do think that Bennett is very much alive in this race for the starting cornerback job, but we'll see how it plays out. And then lastly, I do briefly want to touch on the battle for QB3, as in this game, it was the rookie Kyle McCord who both started and played the entire game, while DTR just watched from the sidelines. So I'd say that's definitely a sign that McCord has won this job, and DTR may not be on the roster in a couple days. Now, that said, McCord was not very good in this game, as he went 15 for 35 with no touchdowns and 1 interception. So hopefully Tanner McKee heals up quick, because I don't exactly feel great about McCord potentially being the primary backup for week 1. But with all that said, of course, the Eagles preseason is now over, roster cutdowns are in just a few days, and the start of the regular season is right around the corner. So you guys know I'm going to be covering all that, just as well as everything Eagles related this entire NFL season. So if you don't want to miss anything, make sure you subscribe and you turn on notifications. And also, while you're at it, make sure you drop a like down below to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. Let's see if we can get to at least 500 likes today. And also, leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. What are your biggest takeaways from the Eagles preseason finale against the Jets? And also, if you want to watch another Eagles video going over some significant news from camp, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.